Hello, welcome to this special show. We are now less than a month away from one of the most awaited events for all of us in the year, which is of course the cleanathon that will be taking place on the 2nd of October. That is the day when all of us really pledge ourselves to a campaign that is really very close to our hearts, Banega Swachh India. And what is it that we can actually do to aid in the cleaning up of the country, something which is a national priority and now of course a key priority for the government also, which is pushing in this entire period also to try and make sure that the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan continues to get a further movement forward. Sometimes we are asked by people, what is it that is expected of us? What is it that we can specifically do? Which is why on the Banega Swachh India campaign, we've come up with a very simple slogan, and there it is, hashtag Mere 10 Gaz. The concept of Mere 10 Gaz is clean up 10 yards around you. We are 1.3 billion people. If each of us clean up a small area around us, automatically this will be a Swachh India. And we are extending that this year to say that the 10 Gaz isn't just on the ground. It's not just the ground around you. It's also the air. Mere 10 Gaz also extends into the air around you because air pollution is such a huge crisis. So some specific areas that we're going to be talking about: Swachh Zameen, the ground around us; Swachh Hawa, the air that we breathe; Swachh Pani. Those are three aspects of it. And today on this particular program, we've gathered a panel of some of the most eminent experts in all of this to try and give us some sense of what it is that we can do. As governments, what can we do? As NGOs and people who are social activists, what can we do? And as the common citizens of this country, what is it that we can do? And let's try and arrive at a set of agendas for each of us. What is it that we can practically do in the next 3 to 4 months to try and make a difference? So let me now welcome all of our experts, and starting off, of course, with our partner Nitish Kapoor of RB. Did I just sum up accurately what we are trying to do this year in the campaign?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, Vikram, what we've done in the last 12 months is to focus this on individual action. Right, so there are governments and there are institutions, and they have great programs around behavior change and infrastructure. But like you said, there are 1.3 billion people in the country, and if every one of them were to do something, I think the movement would of course be much bigger and it would sustain for a longer period of time. So you're absolutely right. It is about what is it that an individual can take responsibility for.
Right. Nitish, before I introduce the experts and let's try and get active agenda items, this campaign has now been running for 3 or 4 years and it's had a lot of success. And it's had various different facets to it, from fundraising to the building of toilets to focusing on iconic tourist places that can be cleaned up. It is something which has to keep on evolving. And then last year, of course, we introduced Mere 10 Gaz for the first time.
Yeah, and I think that like I was saying, the way to make this is not, by the way, an effort that is going to finish in another year or two. I mean, we know how deep set the problem is, and maybe it's going to take another 10, 15, 20 years, maybe a couple of generations. And the way for India to be really fully clean is for everyone in the country to keep doing these things for a really long period of time. And I think that from now on, the agenda really has to be to make sure that everyone is very clear about what is it that they can do. Right? I mean, like you said, everybody wants to do something, but what is it that they can do? And, maybe the experts will help us.
What is it that they can do? And I'm going to eventually try and break this up into each of those things: Swachh Zameen, Swachh Hawa, Swachh Pani, and find action items for each of them. But if I wanted to let's just start off by trying to put some ideas on the table. Specific, concrete steps and what can be done. I'm going to introduce our experts one by one. Anumita Roy Chaudhary is with us, Executive Director, Research and Advocacy, Head of Air Pollution. Been doing a lot of work on CSE. Perhaps one of the top experts on air pollution, and we should be conscious of the fact it is September. 2 months from now, we're going to be sitting here and saying there's a crisis on our hands with air pollution. It's a predictable crisis. We should be doing something about it from now. Dr. Damodar Bachani is the Director at the Center for Environmental Health, Public Health Foundation of India. It's great to have you with us. Dr. Shamla Mani, Professor Waste Management and Environment Health at the National Institute of Urban Affairs. It's a pleasure to have you with us as well. Arundhati Muralidharan is at WaterAid India. She's managing policy in health, nutrition, and also looking at schools there. Chitra Mukherjee is the head of programs and operations at Chintan, which of course have been doing a lot of excellent work in this entire area. let me just go to all of each of you one by one. Specific individual agenda items. If you had to pick 2 things that we should try and do in the next 4 or 5 months, what should they be?
So individual decisions at our own level and within that 10 yards that you're talking about in a neighborhood, that's where we're looking for that action. There's a whole lot of things that we can do. First of all, we really need to know where our waste is going and if we can minimize that. Because the same waste, when I'm looking from air pollution, that the easiest way to dispose of that is to burn it. Now, if we minimize the waste at a household level, where we are reusing our waste as much as we can, minimize the waste generation, and then keep an eye on the neighborhood and see that if anyone is burning waste, then we really have to name and shame. At the same time, there's a construction activity happening all around us. And there are guidelines today of the government that what is the checklist of dust control. Ensure that it happens. But individual decision where you have to reduce your pollution footprint of the way you travel.
So as an
walk,
individual
cycle.
person, reduce the amount of pollution that you yourself
Exactly.
are emitting or are responsible
Absolutely.
for.
And
Don't burn anything.
No.
That's
And
one of the
walk,
priorities.
cycle and take public transport to reduce your per capita emissions.
Okay. Some list that we can do as individuals. Let me come to you. Your thoughts.
Well, taking air pollution again, the household air pollution in rural areas, the emissions are of different nature, whereas in urban areas they are different. I feel in the rural population, the most important thing should be, if you are using the biofuels, first an attempt should be made to replace it with cleaner fluids. But till such time you have it, let us say LPG or electric appliances, at least use it open area kitchen, rather than in the same household they are burning the biofuels and also sleeping in the same room, the mother and the kid in the same room.
For your own, the sake of your own lungs, don't sleep in the same area
Exactly,
as you're
and cook outside if the weather permits. Similarly, in the urban areas, we forget that besides the other air pollution sources within household, in urban areas, in allied families, we use mosquito coils, we use agarbattis and dhoops, which are major sources, and indoor smoking. If you are, you should not be smoker, but if you are still
burning mosquito coils and
Yes.
others for health is also damaging.
very damaging, worse than even tobacco smoking, because the concentrated smoke comes out of it, and many people do not realize this.
Okay, some thoughts that each of us can do.
Yeah, I would like to stick to the waste aspect, you know, like what Anumita was saying, you know, reducing the waste. You know, the lot of citizens are facing, I don't know, they think it's a big challenge, you know, not to be able to segregate at source and to keep the waste, you know, stored in your house until somebody comes to collect it, those kind of things. And I would like to say that if it's a challenge, then, you know, just go beyond that and try to do it. It's not a big challenge. It's not just about 2 bins and about a green bin and a blue bin, and you know, you're so
segregate waste at a personal level.
At a personal level, and do composting. It's not so difficult even at home. It's a bit of a challenge, but you know, it's exciting, it's adventurous. Why don't you really try and do it? And if it's a challenge, it's good, because then you know, you have something to do.
All right.
So taking off from Dr. Mani's point, I think that in places like Delhi, we live in also colonies. So we have resident welfare associations. So definitely look at figuring out how you can segregate waste at home and engage the residents in your colony to do this even at a colony or at a community level. So we're encouraging others who we live next to do this. The other big issue is also that we see at least in a place like Delhi, many households use RO water. Not every place or area in Delhi requires the use of RO systems, and RO systems are quite exploitative of water and heavy water wastage. So we should also be aware of which areas really require it and which areas we can do with a regular AquaGuard kind of filter.
All right, one point from you, and then I'm going to try and club all of these into items which we can sort of start scribbling down on a graphic as we go along.
Well, we work in the field of waste management, municipal solid waste management, and I would like to, of course, reiterate what they say about reduction, of course, and segregation. But more importantly, I think all this actually ties on to the thing that we should be looking at decentralized models. I mean, clearly centralized models are not working. So at an individual level, when we say mere 10 gaz, it means that you look at a model where you can actually control your waste, take responsibility for your waste at your level. So segregate, compost, use your rack picker who comes to your door. We call them waste pickers, we give them a little more dignity. But please use these people. Their livelihoods depend on the waste that you are giving out. So I would say RWAs and everybody should work much more closer with waste pickers, because they are the ones who are going to provide a solution to all this.
Okay. I'm just going to try and now club all of these into individual.
I think a very important point that we have left out is water. And which is that we have to conserve each and every drop of rain that falls in the neighborhood, and also decentralize sanitation to reduce the sewage load which ultimately is flowing down to our river.